Welcome back to the Exempt List. Today, we are digging into my pain as a Falcons fan after an eventful draft weekend, and we will be recapping all the interesting points from the draft. I'll be joined by Yahoo Sports contributor Nate Tice, who also co-hosts the Athletic Football Show, and we will be right back with the show in a minute. Welcome to the Exempt List, part of the Zero Blitz podcast family. I'm your host, Charles McDonald. At this point, I feel like this guest has not even rent, just partial ownership of this podcast over the past 6 weeks, 7 weeks, because we've been cranking out all these draft pods. But I'm joined again by Nate Tice, a Yahoo Sports contributor, Athletic Football Show. You know the vibes. Nate, you were in Detroit this weekend.
I was
for the draft. This morning, yes, you were now in Vegas.
As you see, I'm back in Vegas wearing a Seattle t-shirt. So just in case I want to put up a pin on the maps where I've been today, it'll stay up. A little loopy. Had a Red Bull yesterday for the first time. I don't know how long. Pure sugar one too. That's how it was. It was just one of those types of days. Yeah, but no, it was awesome. Draft was great. Detroit was awesome. I have a new respect for Detroit fans. A lot of knowledgeable Uber drivers and Lyft drivers. I was surprised because they had always asked, "Are you here for the draft?" But they knew ball. So shout out to Detroit Lyft drivers, but also downtown Detroit, 700-something thousand people. It was pretty fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Detroit fans, they're invigorated right now because they feel like they have a real team. Yeah, for the first time in what? A long time?
Ever. Really, ever. Yeah. I could safely say that without going when's it? No, safely say ever.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they got to host that. It looked like a crazy time. There were a ton of people that were actually there at the draft, even through the end of day 3, which I always find interesting. Maybe it's just because it's a Saturday and it might be nice outside. There's not much to do. So you just go out there and you chill. But being the people that stays out there through the end of day 3, I don't get it. But I'm sure that we just have a different relationship with the draft.
Yeah, I have that. Probably my stage of that was probably high school, but then it was not really, just because of personal ties. So, right. That kind of changed it always. Yeah. So I always kind of viewed the draft a little differently, but I thought it was cool because I had we would do a rehearsal for our show and then I'd have 5 hours to kill. So I was I'm not working out, let's be honest. So I'll walk though. So I walked a good couple miles and just walked around Detroit, and they had a lot of stuff blocked off because they're making downtown very walkable for everybody for the fan experience. So it's kind of nice. It was a beautiful day, a little chilly the first day, but it was a perfect crisp weather. So it was great. You could just tell everyone was having fun. Everyone was in good vibes. And I keep saying this about the draft. It's the Super Bowl is the corporate business event. That's their event. The draft is the fan event. And you could and every year I've gotten to go to it a few times. The last 3 years, it's you can see it kind of growing. You see people kind of get it, and new shticks are happening, and new things are happening. So it's kind of cool. We'll see how it goes in Green Bay, though, because that
should be
700,000 people would triple the city size.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think there are going to be a lot of funny stories out of Green Bay by the time the week is wrapped up. Yeah, yeah.
So it might be a Woodstock thing, or Bonnaroo, or one of those a festival kind of thing going on.
Speaking of someone who might have been old enough to be at the first Woodstock.
Nice.
The Falcons drafted. We just got to get into it.
That was get into it. That was we have to with that segue.
We have to. The Falcons drafted Michael Penix with the 8th overall pick on Thursday night. The 8th overall pick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yep.
8. He was the first Washington player drafted, which is wild. I think when you start watching their offense.
I didn't even think about that. You're the first person to put that in my head. Oh wow, yeah, dude, watch Michigan State game.
I went back on Thursday after the draft and just tried to cope. Friday morning, just tried to cope. And dude, I'm man, there's so many awesome players on this offense, and I just don't think the QB is one of them as far as NFL is concerned. Obviously, college, Michael Penix, good enough to get you to a championship game. They got their ass kicked by Michigan, but that just kind of is what it is. I think Michigan had 12 or 13 players drafted this weekend. So that kind of shows you what kind of talent they had on their team last year. But man, when that pick came in, well, first I knew something was wrong because I was watching the the draft with our good friend Richard Johnson. He came over to my apartment, which has been like a 4-year running tradition now that we do. Comes over, watch the. It's a good hang. It's a good time.
Yeah, that's a good duo.
The first time we started this tradition was when Trevor Lawrence got drafted by the Jags, and then
also he was thrilled.
He was thrilled. Yeah. Great time. Yeah. We decided to do it every year. So he got like my reaction, and I knew something was wrong because we watched the first round kind of away from the computer. We just watched it like we do as fans and wait for Goodell to come up and announce the pick. And Justice, our friend Justin Mosqueda, he started calling me like as Goodell's walking up to the podium. So I know, we're on tape delay, right? So I know something.
Of all people, you know, a call from Justice is not good when you're on the clock. When you say pick is in and you get a Justice call, that's a terrifying feeling.
And then when Goodell walks on the stage,
I didn't know any of this. I was on air, so this is amazing.
Oh, God. And when Goodell, he walks up to the stage, you know, the 8th pick of the 2024 NFL draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Mike. And as soon as he said, and Mike, I was like, oh, no, they did it. They really drafted Michael Penix with the 8th pick. There's so many things wrong with this. But first, like, what are some of the things that stuck out to you when the pick came across, and I guess how you've processed it over the last couple of days?
Yeah, just like you, I was on the couch for our show, and I'm staring, you know, at the TV, pick is in and all that. And first off, my first thought was, why didn't they trade? Because the Rams were sniffing, and the Rams, what I heard was that it was with the Falcons. It was that they were going to do a little swap-a-roo, and, you know, for Brock Bowers with the Rams. And I thought that would make perfect sense. Okay, they swap, and Falcons go back to 19, get some more stuff. Maybe they want to jump back up and get like a defensive player that they really like, or whatever they want to do. And I'm like, that would make a lot more sense. Maybe that's just the fan fiction that you kind of write for it. Like, you're like, yeah, that's what they're going to do. So when it says pick is in, I actually was like, oh, maybe we nailed it. We being me and you. They did take a receiver. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, they are taking new dudes. Oh, sweet. And so that was my second thought. And then just like you, I saw meh. And then I actually had like not a knee jerk reaction, an elbow jerk reaction. I hit Dane, and because I was just like, I didn't know what else to do. And it was all on camera and all that. But it was, first question was why? Second thought was I knew that they liked him and had interest in him, but I just didn't know that meant round one interest. And I didn't know that. And even if it was round one interest, I thought maybe that's 20s, you know, where you take these kind of the next tier quarterbacks. I have him more like a third rounder. So I was like, okay, that means they might take him like second round. Or they move up for that Teddy trade or like the Lamar trade where you reel in the back end of the first round, one of those things. So you get the 5th year or something like that. I could argue maybe for that. But then 8 was it was shocking. It was shocking. Even if I knew 5% of information, it was just one of those that just stunned me, floored me. It really did.
There's just so many places where it just doesn't make sense. Because when they started alluding to,
oh yeah. Which one do you want to get to? Which defense, the exhibit do you want to get to?
I mean, time-wise, it just makes no sense from the standpoint. One, he's an older prospect. He played 6 years of college football. Like, we have really kind of entered into uncharted territory with all these COVID year guys hitting the league. Not even just Penix, but like Jaden Daniels, Braden Fisk, like a bunch of these guys have played 5 or 6 years in college football. So, you know, I guess that's just gonna have to be a work in progress, and we'll just see how that unfolds over the next few years. But man, I don't understand really doing the Kirk and draft an older quarterback prospect in the same year. Like when they on the broadcast, when Adam Schefter started alluding to, you know, a quarterback pick coming up for the Falcons, I was like, okay, I think I could stomach JJ McCarthy. Because by the time this is over,
like a mini version of Kirk, maybe. Like,
yeah, and by the time it's over with Kirk, JJ will be like 23, 24, something like that.
Yeah, he's super young. Yeah,
I don't really get stashing Penix for 3 years or 2 or 3 years if the Kirk thing goes like okay, 4 years if the Kirk thing goes like really, really well. And also, I just don't think that in general, this team was good enough to spend the 8th overall pick on a player who won't be playing. Like they had a top 10 pick for a reason. And they kept trying to compare it to Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. Like it's just not the same thing at all.
All the teams that sit a guy were winning teams, usually that moved up. You have Dante Culpepper, that the Vikings had a second first round pick that year in 1999. You look at Carson Palmer's the one. That was pick one. They had John Kitna. And that was like, that's the one that they had that, but they had the number one pick with freaking John Kitna. Or I'm sorry, Carson Palmer, who just won the Heisman. It was like a great prospect. Then Mahomes, they were picking in the 20s, moved up to 10. The Packers moving into 20 or in the 20s. And I think they moved up slightly for Jordan Love. They were a lot of successful franchises. Bengals like excluded. That's the one no one actually refers to. That I think is kind of funny. Right. If you want to make an argument for it, that's the one you try to make an argument for. But I just think the hubris of it has blown my mind about like, well, we're going to be. You have to have confidence in the building. I know that, and I understand like to just morale, but also just going like, well, we're going to be picking late because we have Kirk Cousins. But it's like, yeah, you upgraded quarterback. You did. You have so many holes on this roster. It wasn't like you addressed. It wasn't like that was just it. That's what you needed. It was like, yeah, you need it, but then you needed like two more things, maybe three, really, and then depth. Really, I mean, we saw what happened last year with the injuries. But the other thing that blew my mind was they didn't bring him in for a top 30 visit for a quarterback. I know top 30s are sometimes more character, sometimes medical, but sometimes it's a tip going like, hey, we want to really get to know this guy, and then bring him in for a quarterback, which is interesting. But the other thing about top 30 is medicals. You're not going to bring him in for medicals for a guy that's finished, I think, 4 of his 6 seasons, like basically on IR, the college version of IR, essentially. Right. It's just a curious process. And the last thing I'll say is like the only argument you got is if Kirk Cousins' Achilles is not going great, and this is insurance for this year.
That's I don't know.
But then it's like where the medicals have to be part of that too. So yeah, I'm just saying that's the only one I've had. I've had 4 nights of sleep on this. Whatever, I had 3 nights. Yeah,
I just
2 shots of espresso.
I don't even know like where to even start making sense of this pick. And I think a lot of it has to do with that. I just don't think that Penix was worth the overall pick in the first place.
Like you said, McCarthy's more interesting. He's 20, 21. Okay, there's some stuff that we can tap into. You're sitting the old guy. That's kind of counterintuitive.
The way that it's kind of talked about online, the idea of Michael Penix being, 27 by the first time he sees the field, it's not great. It's definitely not great. But the thing that matters to me more is like, dude, when you play 6 years of college football, how much left is there? You know, like this is probably what you are. And I don't think he's consistently accurate enough. I don't think he plays well under pressure enough. And that was with like a first round left tackle and a right tackle that got drafted second round, a top 10 pick at wide receiver, another second round pick, a third round pick. Like this offense was loaded.
Yes. And like decent tight end and like other guys. Yep. An NFL offense coordinator. He's now the offense coordinator of the Seahawks, who is the same offense coordinator he had at Indiana, or play cars and everything. But, so he's been in the offense for a while. He had a lot of advantages. He really did. There's stuff that I like about him. Like, I love that he is aggressive and stuff. And I love that he pushes the ball. Like, I'm not saying like this is like, holy crap, he has no shot, but it's just like the process to this and what you allocated to it, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up because of what that player's profile is, even before you get to watching him. It's all the other things. Just looking at those leads you to like, all right, this guy has to be a super outlier to be like worth this, like a Burrow outlier, but that's a Burrow outlier. I think of one, at that age.
And even then, I don't even really think people have questions about like Burrow's transition to the NFL.
It's easy.
It's pretty easy. Pretty easy. And then you look at the rest of the class. So you're like, okay, wow, you took a stash quarterback pick when you won 7 games last year. And we know Kirk is a lot better than where they were at quarterback last year. But still, like you said, a lot of holes in this roster. They needed a cornerback, didn't draft one. Needed a wide receiver. Didn't draft one until round 6. They stocked up on defensive line talent. And I think a couple of those moves actually have a chance to work out. Yeah. But they kind of just added Kirk Cousins and Darnell Mooney and called it an offseason.
Rondale Moore.
Yeah, Rondale Moore, right. Yeah, the superstar gadget guy. I just don't think they got as nearly as much done this offseason as they think they did. And the word you said before, hubris, keeps coming back to mind. Like come on, man.
It's a lot of overconfidence, and I'm like, I wanted to like this like process and everything. I was like, I thought they were set up for doing decent. Okay, you got Kirk, you got your quarterback, you got the research, you have the number 8 pick. You can do a lot of things here. You can set yourself up for now and the next 2 years. Like, and I get, it's the quarterback position. You want to invest in it, but you already did. So that's what there's just a lot. There's just a lot here. I will say the defensive additions, again, they traded up for Ruka Roro, and that's also not great. But I will say adding him, Brandon Dorless, Braden Trice, Braden Trice and Dorless, we both like him, I believe. Justice likes him. We all like him. That's one of our kind of guys. So I actually did like that. Dorless makes a lot of sense with Raheem. Roro makes actually some sense with Raheem, but he's another guy. He's an older guy, or like a fifth year guy. He's really talented, but he's never tapped into it. Maybe they can get it out of him, move him around a little bit. That Raheem could use that pretty well. I think Raheem Morris. So that's one thing I will say about what they did the next couple of rounds.
Yeah. Well, so whatever. I just look. I just know we're gonna get to preseason, and he's gonna kill some third string defense, and everyone's gonna be like, ha 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 ha, ha, see, we did it. I have nothing else to say on this. It's ridiculous.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. I don't feel better. I don't feel better at all. I know. I do
because I was like, all right, I think I just unleashed every thought I had on my plane ride home. I'm like, yep, good, got it all out. I could just move on.
Yeah.
Where's Arthur?
Arthur's about to have the time of his life. He got an offensive line again,
dude. Steelers killed it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them later today.
We'll talk about this offensive line picks a little bit later, but there were two picks in I think the entire draft that I gave an F. One, Michael Penix. We just went over that. The second was Bo Nix, 12th overall to the Broncos. I don't really know why. Maybe it's just the Falcons have been this front and center laughing stock for the last decade. But Bo Nix at 12 is just as crazy. I think it's even worse than Penix at 8. Maybe it's better because Nix will play this year, but in terms of talent, I don't get it.
Talk about another older guy, or has a lot of starts, and he succeeded this year when they took things away from him, which is very curious. Kind of made the offense a little more point shoot, limit some sort of scope, making a lot of checkdowns, not checkdowns. I say a lot of quick game RPO stuff, a lot of stuff on the outside. Yeah, I had him as another third rounder. Again, I thought the Broncos, I didn't even think the Broncos would like him. Sean Payton would like him. Let's just say, not even say the Broncos, Sean Payton. I didn't think Sean Payton would like him because he's not a guy that he usually works with. He likes I've always thought that he likes the guys that push the ball, like Drew Brees, younger Drew Brees, not the older Drew Brees, Jameis Winston, those guys. So seeing Nix in this offense, it's okay, Teddy made this work. Teddy was a lot more accurate. Teddy was a lot more consistent. And that's the hope, is being kind of a real quick, ruthless, quick game operator. I think that's maybe what he wants to get to. There's stuff there, but I think that's a natural limitation on your offense. So it's you're already capping your offense, even if you can make him a starter, which I thought maybe he could be a Heineke plus Nix could, but it's that's a cap. That's what, 18th best quarterback, maybe in a great offense with a great play caller and everything. So, and again, it's pick 12. I don't think anyone else was on Nix like they were.
That's the thing. Because whenever it got brought up in the lead up to the draft, it was always just the Broncos.
It was it, right? That's the only team I heard associated with them. So, and again, another thing where it's I saw those rumors and heard those rumors, and I was okay, they mean round 2. And then, but now it's QBs don't go round 2, so that might mean round 3 or late round 1. And it's then it's ha ha, you guys took this guy, but it's still pick 28 makes more sense, or pick 30. But no, pick 12. Standing pat, pick 12 for a quarterback that I think is kind of capped out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of baffled what traits the Broncos saw that said, we got to get this guy at 12. And this is what I was ranting about on Harmon's podcast last week. 6 quarterbacks in the top 12 is wild, because
insane.
QB 6 is usually just not anything.
Levis went the second round. I like Levis way more than Nix, Penix, even Rattler, who I actually kind of sort of liked. But Levis had so many more traits. Even if he was older, he at least had these traits to work with, this untapped stuff to work with.
I wonder if they pulled the trigger at 12 just because they didn't have many picks this year. They didn't have a second round pick. He probably wouldn't have made it to the third round pick. Yeah, but still trade back and get it.
There's got to be an area. Hey, Howie, I know you want one of these corners, something like that. There's got to be someone's phone you could have worked there.
And I think, there's been comparisons oh, Sean Payton drafted Bo Nix. Maybe there's some Drew Brees in here. That is so underselling how talented Drew Brees was like early in his career. Like when Drew Brees and Bo Nix were at this same point, dude, Drew was a monster.
Like Caleb. Drew was like Caleb. That's what Drew was. That's what people don't realize. Drew was such a good athlete. And he was like a monster, dude. Like he was like, he was so many creation plays and stuff. So yeah, I know everyone just remembers 2017 and 18 Brees, popcorn arm, barely pushed the ball 30 something yards, like and just a ruthless quick game guy. But it's like, yeah, that's a part of the offense. But the real part of Sean Payton's offense was always the play action, chuck it down the field stuff. That's why I actually thought Russell Wilson was actually going to be a decent fit. And there was some stuff that actually worked together, but then Russell can't do quick game. So then Payton's like, I can't do this. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's like, I need someone that could do quick game, like awesome. But then it's like, again, quick game has such a cap. That's like hitting a bunch of singles. Like just over. That's like saying I'm going to build my team out of like 50% of Ichiro. Like that, just a bunch of singles hitters. Like,
try to get on base, man.
I didn't want to insult Ichiro and compare him to Bo Nix. I'm sorry.
No. I also just find it interesting that, and I'm going to have to assume the Broncos don't think they're as far away as they actually are. But just to add, like, what is Bo Nix changing about anything for where this roster is right now? They've gone through a pretty big facelift. Like the linemen, they need a lot of things. So just to sit there at 12 and take Bo Nix, it's just the QB. Like I said, the QB thirst has just gone too far. You don't need to take Bo Nix at 12. You don't need to take Penix at 8. And then you just let all these talented defensive players just fall right to the back half of the draft for the playoff teams. Like the Eagles getting Quinyon Mitchell. Come on, what are we doing here?
They didn't have to do anything.
No,
that was, and it's actually Quinyon Mitchell is actually he's going to the perfect defense for him. Like he's like that Fangio stuff. What they do is like perfect for him. It's unreal. And like you said, those are all playoff teams. These are the winning teams. So you're just like, I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Tampa Bay sitting there. Yeah, I'll take Graham.
I'll take Graham Barton. Are you kidding? Oh my God, I know that one. I was like, I actually for a moment I was like, all right, there has to be a medical thing. Why? And then the Bucks take him. I'm like, Bucks kind of do this sometimes. They're just like, all right, like kind of Cansey was kind of like that last year. It's like, all right, there's he's not perfect, but kind of watch him kind of thing. And it's kind of Barton's a good player.
Is there any chance that Nix becomes like the best quarterback of this group? I would say no.
No, I don't think so.
I'm not even saying I don't think so. I'm just going to flat out say no.
Yeah, I just. Even before you just watch him, just his profile. He's the oldest quarterback drafted in the first round since Brandon Weeden, and it's Brandon Weeden's the only first round quarterback in I think the last 15 years, and then it's Bo Nix. It's unprecedented territory again.
Yeah. It's just crazy. I would imagine that Bo Nix starts all 17 games barring injury too. Like the competition there is pretty weak.
Yeah, I know. What was the point? I don't know.
Jared Stidham, Zach Wilson, come on.
Oh yeah, they just traded Zach Wilson. That's the thing too. Is like, do you think Sean Payton was going to be like patient, like just do like a nice patient rebuild? It's like, no, of course he's doing this. It's like he makes it hard on himself. It's just I know because he's such a good on-field coach. He really is. He's such a great, brilliant offensive designer. So it's like I'm never fully out on him, but it's just man, he makes it tough.
I almost wonder if Sean was looking at this kind of like the way that I am before the draft. I'm like, bro, are you going to be here to see this thing out? Because like if you tank this year and next year's rough too, guys, the coaches don't usually survive that. I don't know. I would have been more aggressive.
Too big to fail contract. Like maybe he's got one of those. Can't anchor it down. I don't know.
All right. Let's I just
great
can't
note
stop
to start off out.
I just can't stop thinking about Penix. Like they really did it, and it just makes no sense. Like neither of these picks make any sense. But shoot, at least Bo Nix is going to play this year. You'll know.
Unless Cousins' Achilles isn't right.
Unless Cousins' Achilles isn't right. Yeah. We're dropping back week 1, and someone gets around Caleb McGarry, and next thing you know, it's the Penix show.
So that's another thing. If Penix does start, Caleb McGarry is the blindside protector.
That's no good.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Oh, man.
All right. Let's get to some real football players after a quick word from our sponsors. All right, we're back. I'm going to be a little more positive this
There we go.
segment because there was a lot of fun things about this draft. Although this one isn't fun either. We were going to start off with Spencer Rattler, but he got drafted by the damn Saints. That's not fun.
Yeah,
it's not fun.
That room has some personalities now. You got Derek Carr, Jake Haener, he who was suspended for PED usage last year, and now you got Spencer Rattler dropping him in there. So that's I want to see Rattler play, but I had Rattler above Nix and Picks. I'll just say it, Nix and Penix.
Yeah, it's funny because the Saints, like, they walked into this draft with like a million 5th-round picks, and they had 2 picks in the top 100, which was like 12 and 40, or not 12, 14 and 45, and they trade up from 45 to 41 to get Kool-Aid McKinstry. And then you kind of look back at the draft, like Fuaga, McKinstry, Rattler. It's not a terrible haul. Could have been worse.
Yeah, no, they can start
for a 100 pick gap, more than 100 pick gap between your second and your third picks. It kind of came out okay.
They got, put it this way, they got 3 of my top 50 players because Rattler's number 50. So, spicy. I wanted to sneak him in there. Yeah, just get him in there.
It'd be funny if he beats out Derek Carr this year. I would laugh at that for sure.
I want to see him play. He can spin it. Of course, he's going to the Saints, who, like, their O-line still has, that's another thing. Is Fuaga playing left tackle? Or is this
he might be.
That's scary. That's kind of scary.
Also, we don't really know what's going on with Ryan Ramczyk either.
No,
like what decision he's making as far as his future. So
So is it just a 1-for-1? If it's a 1-for-1 replacement with that, okay, I can live with that. If he's left tackle, because his big issue is pass protection. He's like a super McGarry. Like, that's actually what he is. Like, that's so that's got a great run blocker and everything, but just like limited in pass protection. Not bad, but just a little limited. But yeah, that would be interesting. I almost liked him better at guard. When I was watching him.
Me too. Yeah, I did like him better at guard.
He can do some really good stuff. It's just when he adjusts at the second level, that always scares me. He's like, he gets up there and then he's like, and he just falls over himself. So those guys at left tackle always kind of scare me. Penning had the same issue.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Fuaga's I have a higher grade on I do have Penning. Penning was the one, like, we felt like we were all going insane watching him. That was in the moment we knew that was a bad pick. I am on record about that one.
And it kind of seems like the Saints, like, they're already kind of done with Penning too. It was just really fast. Like, they just don't see any hope where this can turn around. Which leaves a really bad offensive line
kick him in that
situation.
guard and see if we can salvage something. It's like, no. Off.
We got to start over. Hit the reset button. Let's move on to some of the running backs. We have a few to talk about. The first one didn't come off the board until Jonathan Brooks at 46, and then we got a few guys that we're going to touch on with Trey Benson, Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd, and Braylon Allen. But let's start with Jonathan Brooks. This is a pick that, like, I don't know if this is just me staring at the draft too long. It probably is, but the more that I sat with it, the less I liked it. And then, because I went back and watched Jonathan Brooks, and I don't know, he wasn't all that dynamic. I think he's a very solid back, but what's his one good thing that, like with Trey Benson, he's gonna, I know he can hit a 50-yarder.
Yes.
With Brooks, he already wasn't the best athlete, and now he's coming off the ACL, and they traded up for him. It just feels very risky to me.
At a spot, they already have a couple guys. They just paid Miles Sanders. I know it's a new regime and all that, or new decision makers, but still on the roster.
New-ish.
You still could have. They didn't need to address it, especially that early, especially for this team where they're at and what they need, or just overall. Yeah, I like the player. I never fell in love with Brooks. I liked him always, and it was like he's like a B+ player. Like, he's just he does a lot of nice things, but I just could not get all the way there with him. I think he ended up my third running back. And I actually originally even had him below Allen at one point. But yeah, that one, I'm exactly, I even in the moment, I was like, oh, the Panthers took him? Because, like, it was like, that was not the team I was expecting. I know the Cowboys loved him. If the Cowboys did take him, it's like, all right, whatever. That's actually a fair landing spot for him. They need a guy like this, a 3-down kind of guy. But yeah, the Panthers one just felt like it was unnecessary, especially for where they're at. I would have liked them to, like, just even take, like, freaking another pass catcher or something. What's especially at that spot in the draft, and not move, to do it.
I feel like the Panthers draft in general is very risky. Like Xavier Leggett.
It's all athletic stuff, like pro. Yeah. Like, that's what it feels like.
So you got not Leggett, Xavier Leggett, Jonathan Brooks. Then they picked Jatavion Sanders in round 4. It's like, whoa, this is you got some low floors over here, pal.
Well, and then their number 1 tight end right now is Tommy Tremble, and him and Sanders are like built exactly the same. Tremble's like a better blocker and everything, but it's like you just got the same kind of like, they're not like a Y, but they're not totally like a full on like, yeah, you can split them out as a number 1 like kind of like a true receiving only guy. So it's kind of like you got 2 1.5 guys, as or half guys, I guess you would put it, as opposed to like they could do one or the other. So that one was interesting. That one too. Sanders did grow on me in the process, but I'm still again, I didn't think that Panthers would be a landing spot for him.
Yeah. Next running back, we're gonna hit on Trey Benson to Arizona. I love this
Same
landing spot for him. I think it's perfect. Dude, I think the way the Cardinals, like their skill group is set up for the immediate future and the long term is pretty damn fun. It's fun, man.
It's pretty tasty. I know. I'm loving what the Panthers. No, what the Cardinals are doing right now. I mean, they had so many picks, but it was. I mean, Trey McBride's real. He's like a good receiving tight end. So they got the Y too. They got Tip Ryman from Illinois. So I love that because like, and he's a big athlete. He's not like a Y, like a blocking tight end. That's just like a big stiff,
right.
Like, my dad. But it wasn't like anything. But it wasn't anything like that. But he like nice complementary skill sets with maybe a little bit more to like tap into. And so I like that. I thought that was fair. I think 3rd round for that the tight ends were all kind of bunched together for everybody. But yeah, I mean, you're going with you get McBride, you get Marvin Harrison, Trey Benson, and James Conner, complementary skill sets. James Conner's the thumper. Benson's big, actually. He runs tough by everything, but he's the home run hitter. He's got really good hands. I love Benson was my running back 1. I think he checks the boxes I like. He can take any run to the house and he can catch the football. And I think his vision's like okay, solid, but he can make up for it. It's okay. But he's willing to run between the tackles, which I think is huge. It's not he always bounces everything kind of thing. So I think that's why it's like you can make him work because he runs so tough and his balance is so good. He might be, as Dane Brugler, who I work with at The Athletic, said, he might be a rookie contract only type career. So I was like, that makes sense because of his knee and maybe his running style a little bit.
And running backs aren't people, so.
Can't, God forbid.
Second contract. You're lucky you got the first one, pal.
You got drafted.
Dude, if Kyler Murray picks up like kind of where he left off to close the season, this is a fun team.
Mm-hmm.
The defense is still a big work in progress, but the offense should score some points at the very least.
Yeah. I love their OC too, Drew Petzing. He was doing some cool stuff last year. Yeah, no, Cardinals are like they're one of my teams to watch this year. Just like they're the frisky plus team. I'm very excited to watch them. I like their O-line coach too. He does cool stuff, and then the defense coordinator. They're like you said. I don't think they're going to be great, and I don't think they're going to be good, but they're going to be at least fun because they're going to just do some wild, crazy stuff. So yeah, excited to watch the Cardinals this year.
Good first step. Let's stay in the division. Blake Corum went to the Rams. What was your thoughts when this pick went across? Because I was just like, damn, that's peak Rams, peak Sean McVay.
Oh, I was like, of course.
Of course.
Like Corum and like Kyron Williams run like exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
It makes sense. What's Corum best on? He's duo. What are the Rams more than anyone? Duo, which is a power-ish run, at you, gap run. So it's like, yeah, of course he went to the Rams. I saw the LA, but I was like, oh, he went to Harbaugh. That's why everyone assumed he might go back there because they could use a guy like him. But no, once he went to the Rams, I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, of course that makes sense. And he's got some, wearing his tires, but him and like, that's fine. Him and Kyron, that's a really nice complementary backs. They both are 3 down guys, pass protection and stuff like that. So yeah, really liked it.
I knew coming into this process that Corum was never going to be like the greatest athlete, but I do say the more I sat with his game and watched it, the more I became a fan. Like,
yes, thank you.
He's a good player, and the way I kind of felt like if I had to go teach like a JV player how to play running back, I might pull Blake Corum clips to show him how to do that.
Yes, he's a running back's running back.
Yes.
Yes. Same, and you know who else is like that? Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams is a running back. They're all about the film. They don't care really. I bet you he could have ran a 4.6 something, like, which is what I thought he was going to run, and he ran actually pretty well. He tested pretty well. So I think that's what they're going to trust the film, and his film's so good, just like you said. Like his vision's so good, his tempo is so good. So even the other guy they have on the roster, Ronnie Rivers, he runs the exact same way. It's just, they have a type, and I love that type because that's the type of running back I like.
And they're just going to run people over too. Like the offensive line, dude, the interior. I cannot wait to watch Steve Avila play center, bro. I cannot wait to watch that.
They're so big.
Dotson, the left guard's like 325. Jonah Jackson's small at like 310, 315.
But plays like he's 350. He tries to murder everybody. Oh, no. Even their tackles are jumbo. Like Rob Havenstein's 6'8", 340. It's, yeah. I know. And then they signed Colby Parkinson from the Seahawks, who's just like he's a ass kicking blocker. Yeah, I kind of know what they're going to go for this year. They're going to be pounding that rock.
I love Sean McVay. I feel like sometimes the way we talk about some of these offensive minds in the NFL, we treat them as if they're playing like basketball on grass. But Sean McVay, he's here to punch you in the mouth, bro. Yep. Like they are going to kick your ass and then throw play action behind it. And what are you going to do? Our quarterback throws 100 miles an hour and we're bigger than you.
And then if you want to load it up, you want to load up the box. Oh, you're going to play single high against Matthew Stafford? Okay. All right. Have fun with that. It's awesome. And that's what the duo runs great. You can run against anything. And that's what they're running a bunch of concepts. I'm going to write so much about the Rams this year like I did last year. But it's like they're running the ball and passing the ball with kind of like you can't, like they have answers to everything. Because Stafford's so good and the concepts they run are so deep that they're always going to have an answer to the coverage. That's what duo does. You can run it against anything. So it's kind of like they're not letting defenses like manipulate them, which is like, yeah, I'm liking this. I'm liking this a lot. Did you know Mike Munchak is consulting there?
I did not know that.
And it makes sense. How they run the ball now is how those old Steelers teams did with the Bees, with Le'Veon Bell and all that. So
consulting game's hot right now.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Get that $200,000. You're a coach, but you're not a coach.
Let's hit on one more running back. Former Wisconsin Badger Braylon Allen getting drafted to the Jets to back up Breece Hall. What do you think of this pick? I think it's an interesting pairing. I still think that Braylon could stand to get a little leaner, get a little more explosive for himself.
Yeah, he should be early, like low 230s. He weighed, I think, 235 at the combine, which is like pretty good. Like he should never be above that. Yeah. Never ran the 40. I like Braylon a lot, but it's how he runs and how him and Blake Corum should swap how they run, like based on their size. Like Braylon is actually, he's a little tougher than I think he gets credit for, but he's more of like a zone runner, I think. More just like, wide and split. And because I think his vision's pretty good and all that, but he's a finessey big body runner. But I actually like that with Breece Hall because, Breece can do everything, but he needs, time. He's gotten hurt, all these things. So now you get a guy that can, no matter what, can eat some touches, however we want to do it. So I like this. I'm surprised Braylon actually lasted as long as he did. I could have saw him sneaking into the third round, but all just depends on the flavors you want. It's like just so they have insurance to run the ball because every time Breece Hall's gotten hurt, they've been like, oh God. But that's been also Zach Wilson under center too doesn't help.
Yeah, it gets a little tough. So if it just feels we're doing the same thing as last year with the Jets. If these pieces can stay healthy, this offense should be good. The Fashanu pick in the first round. We'll get to offensive line in a second. A little rapid fire there. They have talent. It's just got to stick together. But at the same time, we're asking Aaron Rodgers, Mike Williams, Tyron Smith, stay on the field, please.
Morgan Moses. I mean, Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yeah,
he's that injuries too. Breece Hall. And that's just the offense. Defense is gonna be sick. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, they're gonna be nasty on defense for sure.
And that's why I'm actually kind of like. I mean, the Jets are obviously going to be such an interesting team, but I'm a little more bullish on them because it's like maybe just because, if it hits, it's going to hit. It's just that they have to thread such a needle because this is who they're betting on. This is the guys they have to build around because just how the makeup of it is.
Yeah, let's do a couple O-line landing spots, or I'll ask you which one of these guys is, in your opinion, going to be some of the most impactful from day one. So we got Joe Alt to the Chargers, J.C. Latham to Tennessee at 7, Fashanu to the Jets at 11, Tuis Fuaga to the Saints at 14, and Marius Mims to the Bengals at 18, Fatanu to Pittsburgh at 20, Jordan Morgan to Green Bay at 25, Barton to Tampa Bay at 26, Tyler Guyton to Dallas at 29.
Everyone made fun of me, man. Everyone goes, there's not going to be that many linemen going in the first round. And it's like, no.
Yes, there are.
Yes, there are. God dang
yes, there are. I'll start off real quick because the Titans have already come out and said that J.C. Latham is going to start at left tackle.
Hell yeah.
Which I think makes sense for where their roster is. That left tackle was the biggest hole for sure on their offensive line. And if like Dylan Radins is, if he's serviceable, still moving forward, that's probably a pretty good enough tackle duo. But I did think it was interesting that they just came out and said, yep, that's our left tackle. And I guess they're just going to let him sink and swim. I think he can do it, though. I do think Latham can play left tackle. Yeah.
Latham he kept sneaking up the board for me. He was a top 10 guy for me. I loved him. I just think it was aesthetics for people where it just looks so big. People were just like, no, he doesn't move like that. But you never see him like lose by being a bad athlete. He's a really good athlete for such a big man. So I think maybe even I knew Bill Callahan would love him. This makes all the sense that Callahan loves size. He's the guy that just drafted DeJuan Jones last year with the Browns. And he has carte blanche to select his guys. So who his boss is. So if you go on the left side, so if he goes, all right, I love that. So you have Latham on the left side, their first round pick last year, Peter Skronsky at left guard. They decide Lloyd Cushenberry at center.
Yep.
That's retooled. Cushenberry's so smart, and I like him. I've always thought he was underrated. PFF had him as like the worst lineman in the league his rookie year, and I was like, but it's just a smart, solid player. They paid him a lot, but he's a steadying force. So now you got talent, real talent, and with one of the best offensive line coaches of all time. So they're setting up Levis to succeed, and I think they like Levis. Obviously, but I think they like elementary school style. Like, I think they like Levis more than anything. So Titans are interesting because they're such a reshaped team and they just have such interesting pieces, signing Calvin Ridley and all this. So yeah.
Hey, they're giving Levis a chance.
They are.
They're giving him a chance.
It's a better situation than most young quarterbacks get. It is. It's better than what Justin Fields had for a few years. So I know it's better than what Bryce Young had last year. It's better than what a lot of guys that Trevor Lawrence had. I think actually might be better than what Trevor Lawrence has.
They
do.
He got the
actually, now that I think about it,
he got his receiver.
Oh no, okay, never mind. Well, yeah, Brian Thomas. So, but I'm
talking the Titans got Trevor's receiver.
Oh, Calvin Ridley. Yeah, I was saying, but no, I'm not. I'm thinking that actually, I actually might like the Titans. That's actually sad to say.
Yeah,
now that considering where we were at like 6 months ago.
Outside of Latham, what was your favorite O-line pick in round one before we get to this little draft game?
Oh man, I actually really like this one. Was Amarius Mims to Cincinnati Bengals. I love it. This is how you're gonna this is the team that should be saying we're always gonna be picking in the 20s. They're gonna be battle because they actually have a dude at quarterback, even though he's been getting hurt with Joe Burrow. So this is their way to get off the tackle carousel, the mercenary tackle carousel, and to get a guy that has legit all-pro potential at the second half of the draft. You don't really get these opportunities like this to get a guy with Mims's upside. He doesn't have to play right away. This is a landing spot, and he's with an offensive line coach that's good, and with a quarterback that can mitigate, early struggles with Burrow's pocket movement and everything. So, love this landing spot. For Mims to hit his upside, he had to go to a good landing spot, and this was one of them. And this was one of my favorite picks. Period.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'm bullish. I know probably Georgia homer in me, but it's funny because I see people
he's an all-world athlete.
All-world athlete, and I think his technique is way better than people give him credit for. It's just being on the field. Get on the field.
I said, I think I wrote him up. I said he's not like a start from scratch project. You're on the fourth floor with him, like a 10-story building. But he's not at the bottom there. His eyes are solid. He's not perfect, but he's not a teardown. Tyler Guyton, who the Cowboys drafted, way more raw than Mims is. Suamataia from BYU that the Chiefs drafted, and who I was really high on, way more of a project than Mims, I think, mentally and everything. So, and he's got more upside. So yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, I think he's going to be an absolute monster. All right, you want to get to this draft game? We're gonna do a little day 3 recap, We're going to do a little competition. So we're going to pick a player from rounds 4 through 7. Each, we're going to do about one player per round. And by the end of the rookie seasons, it's an inexact science, but we're going to use Pro Football References approximated value stat. So, so just so you can get everyone, like, we're not comparing wide receivers to just wide receivers. You can draft linemen because those guys get their AP added up to, and then whoever wins will, figure out whatever the winner gets at the end of it after the season. So, round 4, I'm going to give you the floor. Do you have a pick ready?
I do.
Okay.
Because it's another one of my favorite picks of the whole entire draft. So it's pretty easy. And I think he might be starting right away. So that's Malik Mustafa, safety, Wake Forest, pick 124 to the 49ers. Love this pick. My safety 1, which isn't really saying much in this draft, but he was my safety 1. He's like a Diet Coke Buda Baker. And I think he's going to be their starter right away. And I think it's insurance for what they have. Maybe figure out their other spot if Falcon comes back healthy. So yeah, I like Malik Mustafa a lot. Best tackling DB in the draft. Maybe best tackling off-ball player in the draft.
No, seriously. Yeah. Which says a lot about where the linebackers were this year. But that safety trio, because even Jair Brown, like their 5th or 6th round pick from Penn State, he really came on. So you're looking like Hufanga, Mustafa, Brown. Dude, those guys are gonna take your head off. Like,
right? And do they do
fun.
Big nickel so Lenore can be outside? Like, they have options, which is great and different. I mean, they obviously have a type. Hufanga and Mustafa. They like their guys that are just gonna saw off some running backs. So they're gonna get guys that can tackle, and that's why no one gets explosive plays. So yeah, I really like this one. This was when he got drafted there. I was like, of course he goes there because of course he goes to the Niners.
Mine is going to be a homer pick. I'm going to just ride with Brandon Dorless.
Love it. Yeah.
I mean, I think it makes sense. I thought it was their best pick of the day, or not the whole weekend. So.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Hey,
I mean, Dorless and Braylon Trice were probably my 2 favorite players they drafted. So
no, seriously,
yeah.
It's like if I can just pretend round 1 didn't happen, I can stomach this, but it did happen, so I can't. Brandon Dorless, I think he's just like, the upside is interesting from the interior pass rush. I think it's be interesting also to see where they play him on early downs. But Grady Jarrett's getting up there, Davon Yamana's getting up there. They needed to restock, and I really think that Dorless has an opportunity to become impact pass rusher for the Falcons on the interior. And we'll see how his versatility ends up playing out for Raheem Morris's defense this year. Round 5, what you got?
Round 5. Oh, I'm trying to pick between 2 running backs. I'm actually going to go Tyrone Tracy from Purdue to the Giants.
Charles Robinson was a big fan of him.
No, I'm going to pick that over. That was 166. That Tracy's kind of got a player profile I'm always a sucker for. He didn't make my top 100, but I know the other back that did make my top 100. I'm not picking. I don't even know why I just did this. But Tracy he's a former receiver, now a running back, and that's like, in my head, that's David Johnson or Rashad White. So maybe I'm grading to those guys. But he's got some cool stuff to him. He's got some return ability. He can catch the ball really well because he was a receiver, and he's got explosiveness. He's got some vision that it's not bad for converted receiver. So yeah, I think the Giants kind of have a place that he can get snaps, and he could be an interesting kind of player for them. So maybe he just outplays this spot, maybe because of the extended time that he has to play there. It's just Devin Singletary. And then what's his face from, Eric Gray, one of my most disappointing dynasty picks of all time. Oh my God. So no one cares about anyone's leagues, but just know I have Puka Nacua in every single league except for one, because I was like, I got 2 third-rounders. I'll take Gray. I'll take Nacua. No one else is going to take him. And like, whatever it was, 5 picks later, Nacua goes. So anyways, but I had a bet about that. Eric Gray is always going to stand out to me like that.
I have 0 picks in my dynasty draft this year.
Who'd you give him to?
I don't really remember, but I think Charles Robinson has 1. Michael Smith might have another, but I have Patrick Mahomes on my super flex team now.
Oh, okay. So that's
still got Ayuk. I've been holding on to Kyle Pitts for an entire season. I've rejected every trade. Diamond hands, and then Kirk came, so we're good for like 2 years, maybe. Yeah. Hopefully, if his Achilles works.
No, Well, then it's the Penix era. So you're totally
the Penix era. Yeah. When Kyle is probably catching passes from Patrick Mahomes somewhere. My round 5 player, I'm going to go with Audric Estime, running back from Notre Dame.
That was the other guy I was going to go. So
right. I really think that this fall was too far for him, man. I really do think it was too far.
He's my running back too. I know
he ran the 4.7, but dude, he's so young. He runs hard. He's explosive. He's got the breakaway speed, or the breakaway athleticism, at least, to get away from guys, even if the time 40 wasn't that great. I don't know how much he'll push like Javonte Williams this year, but I think he can. If Sean Payton's willing to open that up to like a real competition, probably, experience will get Javonte the upper hand. But from just a pure running perspective, I don't see why you can't challenge, at least Samaje Perine for RB2 this season.
I like this one a lot. I actually am kind of disappointed in myself. He ran a 4.58 at his pro day, which was like, I'm back in. This is a guy I'm trusting the tape on. I mean, like you said, I think the fall is too far. I totally understand if you take him in the 4th round. Like if he falls to the 4th, I get it. That you stare at that 40, it's scary. How many touches can he take? All these types of questions you have, but like just kept going. And some of the other backs that went ahead of him, I was like, really? Okay. And because on tape, he's a home run threat. Not even just explosive. And yeah, he's got interesting vision. He's got great balance for such a big body. On the Broncos, though, not sure if Peyton likes Javonte Williams. I also thought Sean Payton wouldn't like Bo Nix, and shows what I know. But I don't think that's truly his guy. He's a big vision guy. He likes the guys with vision. And then Perine is Perine. Perine's a role player, really good. He's a designated hitter. He's in there to pass protect, catch checkdowns. I think Peyton, more than anyone, likes Jaleel McLaughlin, the scat back, the undrafted free agent last year, because he can run his choice routes that he wants to call 500 times. So like that's like his guy. So I think Audric Estime and McLaughlin are like the new duo. Like I think that's kind of like what he's kind of trying to get out there. Like those are the type of players he wants to. At least in my head, that's why I say. But I think those two have very complementary skill sets that I actually kind of sort of like.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it works. Like I think the Broncos, like they end up having an interesting draft, kind of like the Falcons, but the quarterback pick at the start is just so baffling. It tempers expectations.
Kind of ruins. I know they got Troy Franklin in the 4th. It's like his tape is so much better than the 4th rounder. I know he's skinny, but yeah. They traded for John Franklin Myers, which I thought was interesting. That was kind of
they got him for like a 2026 like 6th round pick.
That's 6th rounder or something.
Pure salary dump from the Jets. I know that Jets fans were not happy about that, but they have too much dead cap, I think, and had to offset someone, and they got lucky. The Broncos did, at least, getting someone like that for such a little price.
Yeah. No. So
what do you want to do for round 6 here?
Okay, so round 6, I wanted to throw a little change up here where we each pick a Lion pick. Because they had 2 that I think were both interesting. And then we each pick a rookie kicker.
Okay.
Yeah. We can snake draft it if you want.
Okay.
I'll let you start.
I'll go with Mekhi Wingo from LSU. I don't know what the hell happened this weekend, because when you look at Wingo's profile, it's pretty clean. Like, as far as the benchmarks you're trying to figure out where, okay, is he productive? Yep. I don't know about the character, but he did get number 18 from LSU, which is kind of like a sacred tradition for them as far as, leadership. He's also only 21 years old, or about to turn 21 years old. And he did a lot of stuff for LSU's defense. And then he fell to the 6th round, and 2 of his defensive line teammates were drafted over him.
And he was better than them.
And he's better than both of them. Which it was pretty baffling.
Like, cleanly, I'm not even like trying to be a hot take here. Cleanly better than both of them. Yeah.
Well, see, when I started looking at Wingo, I thought, okay, maybe there were so many older prospects here. I assumed that maybe he was like 30 something, not 30 something, but like 24 or whatever. But he's 20, and with production and athleticism
in the SEC.
Yeah.
That's usually what they like. I know usually these guys get like overdrafted. I know that one was weird. Dane was confused. I was confused. It seems like everyone's confused about that one. So the league knows something, or they don't know something, because this happens.
Yeah, Grady Jarrett, 5th round pick too.
That one was also the same. It was like, all right, he has pedigree. He is at a big school. He was productive. He tested well. Great character, like great leadership, all that. And okay, All right, we'll take him.
Yeah,
I remember that
5, and he was like an immediate starter for them.
Yeah. Oh my god, right away. It was awesome. Yeah, because I had to. I was the guy. I was tall, so I never got promoted from having to grab the magnets when guys got drafted because I was tall there, and because I didn't have to use the stool. And I remember I was shifting it, like kind of like okay, like moving the guy. Someone just got selected, and I touched the Jarrett magnet. And I'm not privy to what the GM, the assistant GM, the head coach are talking at the front table. You know, you can kind of gather who you might be going after based on the magnets left. They all at the same time go. I think it was Dan Quinn goes, "Don't jinx it, don't jinx it, don't," because I touched it, and it was like because that pick was coming. And I was like, oh, okay, so I know who we're going after now. Like,
right.
But it was like talking during a no hitter. Like they were like, "Holy, he's falling." Like, oh my god. So it was so funny.
Dude, I still remember when Grady got drafted. I was sitting in my living room in my parents' house, and I was like, he's falling. I was like, dude, go get him, please go get him. And then when he traded up, I was like, and he's been as good as advertised. All right, other line, 6th-round pick.
I'm going Christian Mahogany. Yes, had a 3rd-round grade on him. Kind of like Gabe Jackson a little bit, where he's like more a power guard. Once in a while can miss his target and not be great, but he's a power guard. He's a puller. Made total sense that the Lions love him. I was like Hank Fraley was probably like, hell yeah. He fell because of medical concerns. He was off some teams' boards because of that. But that's the only reason he fell. It wasn't because of talent level. They just signed Kevin Zeitler. They got gassed out. Like they don't, the guard situation is like, overwhelming. And I think Mahogany has center, I would say experience, but yeah, some reps there. As well. So I'm going to go with Mahogany. Might be starting on a pretty good Lions team. So that's what I'm going to go with.
All right. So you're back up again for the kicker pick.
Okay. I think I'm going to go Joshua Carty to the Rams. Kicker. We're going to talk kickers. Just because I think the Rams offense is going to rock.
It's going to rock this year.
So
they're going to
get the rookie kicker. Last year, the Rams in April didn't have a kicker, long snapper, or punter on the roster, or holder for that matter. Or I think returners too. Going into April, and I think they learned their lesson. I think they even this year, after the season, like the postseason press conference, I think Les Snead or McVay was like, we learned that we have to address the specialists a little bit earlier this season. So I should have been a pretty good hint that they might be drafting a kicker, and that was months and months ago. But it was kind of one of those. Never again are we going through that.
This is tough because it's like, okay, so now what's left is Cam Little, who got drafted by the Jaguars, and Will Reichard, who got drafted by the Vikings. Shoot. I really still believe in Trevor Lawrence. I still think he's a fantastic quarterback. But I think I believe in Kevin O'Connell more to get the Vikings in scoring range. And they still have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison.
Yep, and a decent line.
Yep. I could see a lot of J.J. McCarthy drives that are like stalling out at the 33-yard line that you got to kick field goals on. So I think I'm going to go
in a dome.
In a dome. I'm going to go Will Reichard from Alabama, which means we have 1 pick left each, 7th round, and then our coverage on the 2024 draft is officially over as hell. I'm so tired, bro.
I'm so like, dude. All I can think about is like I have to vomit out like 500 more words or whatever it is, 300 more words, and then I'm like done thinking about this. So I'm going 7th round.
7th round.
I'm going to go with just maybe it's name recognition, maybe it's initial where he was slated to be. Maybe it's I feel bad for him. Going with Kalen King, Packers, pick 255. King was, some had him as a 1st rounder going to the season. I thought that was pretty crazy. I saw him as a day 2 guy throughout the year. Marvin Harrison Jr. Took him to task. Found him the walls of Jericho. Walls of Jericho, mandible claw, whatever, scorpion deathlock, the sharpshooter, every single one. That's what he had him in. So I think a lot of scouts watched that game because they knew it would be a good matchup. Kalen King had to play in the slot a decent amount that game, or did. And Harrison really got after him. But I think it was kind of an over-exaggerated fall, at least to me, because I still think King has qualities. I always thought of him as like a pretty good zone corner, which he might be playing in this year, or maybe a transition to safety, even if he doesn't have great size. But that's where I saw him at, and I didn't see him as a round 7 player. I maybe a late 4th, 5th player.
This was way too far from the fall.
It's exaggerated. It's kind of like the Spencer Rattler thing that Ian Rappaport reported, kind of like, all the scouts are saying like all they can remember is that documentary, and it's just like, well, stuff has happened since then, and I understand the character
6
stuff.
years
but
ago, dude.
I mean, we were all bad in high school. So it's like,
17, I was a head, bro.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea how I was acting. So yeah, I know. And the fact that you don't want to do any more deep diving about like, did he mature? Which a lot of us do during college. Isn't what college is all supposed to be about? Finding yourself, becoming an adult and all that. So yeah, sometimes the scouts, they talk too. And I think sometimes they get their own narrative too. I'm not saying Kalen King's going to be anything, but his fall all the way to almost to the comp picks in round 7 was kind of wild to me.
Round 7, like 255, like 2 picks away from being undrafted.
Yeah.
After you were former projected first rounder,
and his character's
pretty
supposed
nuts.
to be okay. Like, it's not like, like one of those things. So that was weird to me.
Last pick here. I'm going to go with the guy that I feel like every time I've watched USC play for the past 4 years, I'm always just like, man, this dude's a good football player. Don't know pro prospects, but just a good football player. And that's Taj Washington, wide receiver. He's always popped to me. Tough situation for him because he got drafted to a receiver room that already has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they drafted Malik Washington in the 6th round. But man, I've always been a fan of his game. I'm glad to see he got his name called this weekend. And I don't know. I just think he's one of those guys that just damn good at playing football. Maybe not the biggest, not the fastest, but he's making plays out there in pretty impactful ways from time to time. And I think he might have a way to finagle his way into the rotation here as the season goes along. I think it's a 7th round pick.
Even just as a a process pick, it didn't matter who the receiver was there. That's like a good one because of that offense. Guys get hurt. Guys get hurt all the time in it. And McDaniel's also shown like he'll play young guys. Like he'll just play rookies and all that stuff. Like what's his name from Texas Tech? Eric Uzamadia.
Something like that.
Butchering his name. Yeah, but he played him as a rookie. Like he was a 6th round or whatever. So good process pick. Trust the process, Chuck.
Yeah. All right, we're just about done. Last thing I want to ask you before we wrap this up and go off to the desert for a few days. What was one pick, on day 2 or day 3 that really had you scratching your head? Because the Dolphins maybe think that trading up for Jalen Wright to throw in there and to giving away 2025 third to the Eagles. Like, stop letting Howie get away with this, bro.
it's unreal. It's just like he's just one iota of thought, it seems like, and you just outthink all these guys, or patience, I should say. Maybe that's just what it is. All right, well, round 2 or round 3.
Mine, I'll tell you mine. Mine, when round 3 ended with Luke McCaffrey getting drafted by the Commanders.
Okay, yeah, that's with Troy Franklin still on the roster. Yeah, and that was Washington, right?
Yeah, it was Washington.
So mine was going to be a Washington pick. Ben Sinnott, tight end from Kansas State, who I like, but I kind of picture him as like Noah Gray from the Chiefs, kind of more like a utility guy. He tested really well, but it's not like that's his game. He's kind of like a utility guy, and they made him tight end too. A guy that I think is going to be more of like a super move you, like kind of fullbacky, kind of auxiliary tight end, maybe a little slot stuff sometimes, but that felt a little rich. And I don't know, did they trade up for that one too? Let me see. God,
I don't remember exactly.
I see Eagles, so yeah, maybe they did.
Many 2nd round picks.
I know. So that one kind of was the fact. It's more just that Ben Sinnott was tight end 2 after Brock Bowers. I think that's more than anything. That was like, really? Okay. Like, not how I saw it, but all right, if you think that's what you need.
Yeah. The only other 2 picks that kind of were head scratchers to me in the 4th round. I mean, I don't want college football fans to get on me, but come on, why are we taking a punter pick 122 with the Bears?
He is good, but yeah,
he's very good. He's very good.
Round 5,
on principle.
Round 5 is punter round. The good punter round is round 5. That's what I feel like. That's what I feel like it should be the consensus. Like you can't take a punter before round 5.
They can get away with it because you just got Caleb and O'Dunes, but I just had to call that out on principle. It was speaking to my heart. And then the other one I think is actually kind of interesting that I legitimately know nothing about is Giovanni Manu, the giant offensive tackle that the Lions drafted from British Columbia in Canada. I don't know anything about him, but
they traded future third for it too.
Yeah.
I think to the Eagles. But no, that if he's going to succeed, at least he went to Hank Fraley. Like at least he went there to that line coach. Like, but it's like, again, it's a little rich. There's a British guy drafted too in the 7th round. That makes sense.
That's a little too far. That's actually across the pond. What they got going over there. No, but that was interesting. I think he was like a 7th-round pick or something. And
yeah, it was the first pick of 7th round. Actually, that one makes sense to me. That's like I kind of said on our show is that the 7th round feels like to me is going to be like what the 2nd round used to be with the NBA, where it's like, all right, it's going to be all the international pathway guys. Like it's just like, all right, it's guys. Just that's where you take those guys. Like, and instead of being kind of the UDFAs we want to get ahead of, it becomes the international round. That's kind of, I don't know. They're really leaning into it. And I think there's, dividends are getting paid by the international stuff. So I'm pretty curious to see where that goes.
Yeah. All right, let's get out of here. Just to recap the draft game we played. We'll do the AV add up after the season. So Nate had Malik Mustafa, safety for the 49ers, Tyrone Tracy, running back for the Giants, Christian Mahogany, guard for the Lions, Josh McCarty, kicker for the Rams, Kalen King, cornerback for the Packers. I had Brandon Dorless, defensive lineman for the Falcons, Audric Estime, running back for the Broncos, Mekhi Wingo, defensive lineman for the Lions, Will Riker, the kicker for the Vikings, and then Taj Washington, wide receiver for the Dolphins. All right. Any parting shots before we get out of here? Anything you want to let people know you're working on? Because I am not working on anything.
I'm finishing up the 2025 big board. It'll probably be coming out right when you listen to this. So yeah, look for that. I think I'm just going to cap it at 25 for 25. So get ready for that. It's like a Forbes article.
All right, cool. That's going to do it for this episode of the Exempt List. Draft coverage is over. I'm Charles McDonald. You can find me on Twitter at 4Verts. Nate is on Twitter at Nate_Tice. The producer behind the glass, Stone Rochelle, is on Twitter at SJ Rochelle. And we will see you next Tuesday.